HQ here in Auckland. I would love to welcome everyone here tonight. Obviously, this year's Gastrofest is a little bit different. We're not all in person. You're in your homes, so I hope you have good Wi-Fi. And if you don't have good Wi-Fi, God, I hope you have good wine. Now, tonight we've got about 200 guests participating in this year's Gastrofest, all the way from Alexandra all the way up to Whangarei. And this is a big thank you from me to all the hosts who have had all your friends and family come around, and you're cooking them the amazing 5-course meal from Jeff Scott. I would be absolutely concerned to do that myself. I think if I was hosting, I'd be more concerned about people coming away feeling like they have the symptoms of gut cancer. But I tip my hat to you all. Now, tonight we are raising money for the Gut Cancer Foundation. And so as a little bit of housekeeping, I do encourage you all to register and get bidding on the auction site GalaBid. We have about 100 of you doing that now. I think I'm winning a couple of the auction items. I think I'm ahead on the Les Mills and the 2 nights at the Reese Hotel in Queenstown. So get on there, compete with me. Good luck. I am currently in the dog box with my girlfriend, so I will be bidding viciously tonight for those 2 things. You can register for GalaBid if you haven't done already by texting Gastrofest20 with a space and your full name to 2834. That is texting Gastrofest20 with a space and your full name to 2834. You will get a link in response from that number, and you can just click it, do the registration, and start bidding straight away. Now, tonight, if you don't win an auction item but you have placed a bid, please don't be afraid to make a donation as an alternative. Okay, that's the last bit of housekeeping. I don't need to tell you guys where the toilets are because you're in your own homes, and if you've forgotten, well, I think that's a sign you're probably doing tonight in the right way. Now, I would like to kick off the night by introducing the Executive Officer of the Gut Cancer Foundation to come in and have a little chat about what the organization does. Liam Willis, please come on in.
Hi, Liam. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome to the screen, not the stage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit different, isn't it, this one?
It's very different.
Look, I really want to start tonight by thanking all of you, all of our hosts, all of our guests for being involved in Gastrofest this year. As Liam pointed out, this was not what we had planned last November, but as 2020 has turned out strange for everybody, so has Gastrofest this year. We're incredibly grateful to you all for taking up this challenge. We're particularly grateful to a few people that I want to mention now. So first and foremost, Jeff Scott. Without Jeff's input, without his wonderful menu that you're all enjoying tonight, without the countless hours he's put into testing it, to recording the instruction video, to putting your instructions together, this would not have happened. We are indebted to Jeff for all his efforts and incredibly grateful to him. Of course, a night like this doesn't happen, virtual or not, without sponsors. So I do want to take a moment to say thank you so much indeed to our key sponsors who've helped us put Gastrofest on. In particular, we've got some major sponsors in Cumuloo 9 and Turners, who are longtime partners of Gut Cancer Foundation. TWR Media, who took the time out to create all the videos that you've enjoyed during this process. And of course, Silver Ferns Farm, whose amazing lamb you're enjoying at the moment. And on top of that, we've got the other beautiful ingredients in your pack, including the guys from Sabato, Panettone, Whitestone Cheese, Akaroa Salmon Genovese, and Little French Pastry. We're grateful to all these companies for helping us out. It wouldn't have happened without them. And of course, as Liam has already said, tonight is about raising money for Gut Cancer Foundation as well, and that's going through the auction. And we're also incredibly grateful to those companies that have provided us with auction items that I know that you are so keenly bidding on at the moment. So thank you to them. Thank you to you guys for being involved. It makes a huge difference, and throughout the night, we'll let you know what that difference is.
Yeah, absolutely. Liam, talk to me a little bit about what the Gut Cancer Foundation is. It is a niche charity. It's focused on an array of things, though. Talk to me a little about what your guys' mission is and what you guys hope to do.
Sure. So, look, at the Gut Cancer Foundation, our mission is to be the voice of all cancers of the digestive system. It really distinguishes us from other charities out there. So that's everything from the esophagus through to the liver, gallbladder, pancreas, stomach, upper lower bowel and rectal cancer, the whole gamut of the digestive system. And our aim is to improve survival rates, quality of life, and reduce the number of those New Zealanders who are diagnosed with this group. Now, every year, 5,100 people are diagnosed with the gut cancer. And the survival rates for these types of cancer are particularly low, particularly those of the upper gut. So unfortunately, of those people who are diagnosed, 50% won't make it for 5 years. So look, we're motivated to give New Zealanders with gut cancer access to new treatments sooner. And we want to support researchers. So what we do fundamentally is we fund research. And I say we fund research, it's you guys that are funding the research. We couldn't do any of this without your support. So the money goes to New Zealand researchers in clinical trials, in laboratory research, and towards education and research, so that we can support the brightest minds to accelerate the research, educate and increase New Zealanders, and make a positive impact on the lives of people with gut cancer.
That is absolutely fantastic. And we'll be hearing from Liam a little bit later on. I'm going to push you a little bit out of the screen for now, off the stage, off the screen. And I'd just like to share my story with you guys a little bit, because gut cancer does hit home for me. But I'll take you back to the beginning. If you don't know who I am, I'm a two-time Paralympic gold medalist. I was a sprinter. I was born with a bilateral absence of the fibula bone. So that meant when I was learning to walk, basically both of my ankles snapped. My parents were forced to make this tough decision on whether or not to keep my legs looking like tentacles or to amputate. And they went down the amputation path. I basically had this horrendous childhood battling my disability up until I was about the age of 19, where I decided that I would go to the Paralympics. I wanted to race Oscar Pistorius. Obviously, that didn't happen. Maybe in the future, but maybe not. And at that point in time, I had no money. I was depressed. I was at university. I was binge drinking a ton, and I needed about $50,000. And this is really why fundraising is really important to me, why fundraising is really important tonight, because if I hadn't gone out at that point in time at 19 to the New Zealand public and tried to raise the $50,000, I would never have made it to the Paralympics. So tonight, when you're thinking about donating and will that actually make a difference, well, we have a lot of bright minds in this country, and you will be making a contribution to them to help contribute towards gut cancer. So gut cancer to me, my relationship with it happened when I was at about the age of 12. My mum was diagnosed with stage 3 bowel cancer. If you've been touched by bowel cancer, and we know that many of tonight's hosts are hosting dinner parties in memory of friends and family that unfortunately have passed away from a form of gut cancer, you will know that often the symptoms aren't really visible. If you have the symptoms, you don't really know about it often until it's too late. And that was the case for my mum. So at the age of 12, I had my mum sit me down, and the doctor gave her about 6 months left to live. Now, fortunately for me, she ended up living around 6 years, not 6 months. 6 years, she was still there, but she was still fighting bowel cancer, unfortunately. And again, as Liam Willis has referred to, the survival rates, they're not really that promising if it doesn't get caught early enough. So at 18, or by the time I was 18, my mum had gone through 3 different surgeries. She'd had a colostomy bag on one side, then they cut up her bowels again, then it was on the other side, same process once again, the last side, and then eventually she passed away just before I turned 19. And unfortunately, at the same time, my uncle was diagnosed with stage 4, a rare form of stage 4 stomach cancer, and he had no idea whatsoever that he could have possibly been sick until it was too late. And so both of those experiences impacted me very heavily, took a great toll on myself, my family, my friends, and many of you tonight will have been touched by that same travesty. So I do hope that in recognition of our poor survival rates in this country, obviously New Zealanders die from gut cancers and gut-related cancers at twice the rate of, more than the combined deaths of breast cancer and prostate cancer, which are 2 very well-known cancers. So it is really important that we get funding for tonight, so people like myself and people like you guys who are having these amazing dinner parties don't lose friends and family to gut cancer. Now, I would like to bring up our founding board member's video for you guys to watch, and he's really going to talk about the specifics of what that money does in a clinical trial. So this is Mike.
Oncologist. I'm also a professor of medicine at the University of Auckland. My specialist interest is in the cancers of the gut. My passion is to try and get new treatments into the clinic for patients of mine and others to gain benefit in terms of improved outcomes. My motivation to get the Gut Cancer Foundation going was to try and increase the awareness in the community for this group of cancers, but also to raise money to help support clinical trial research. The idea of a clinical trial is to determine what you're trying to demonstrate. One trial might be purely looking to reduce the risk of a side effect, and therefore the new intervention may provide a lower rate of sickness, for example. Other studies may be designed to increase the long-term survival of patients. The bottom line is that we're looking to improve the cure rate for that group of patients. Funding clinical trials is complicated in New Zealand because generally there aren't enough funding pools that will enable you to fund the entire study on its own. Because these studies would not start in New Zealand without extra money, any donations that come through the Gut Cancer Foundation and get approved by our scientific committee for use in particular clinical trials, that enables us to then open the trial in New Zealand. Many of the trials that we run are run internationally, and there may be as many as 50 countries and several hundred centres. Undoubtedly, to have New Zealand clinicians involved in trials that are international keeps the New Zealand workforce in New Zealand and upskilled enough, and the Gut Cancer Foundation has an enormous role in that particular aspect of the research. The message for the supporters of the Gut Cancer Foundation is thank you very much. It's really inspiring to see the level of support, which is not just in the money side of things, which is important to make the wheels of research move, but it's also to see that each of you can be advocates for the group of diseases we see as gut cancer and do your own thing to spread the word about how this is an important problem to try and get on top of.
So that was Mike Finley, who was or is New Zealand's leading oncologist, and talking about what that money will go towards. Now, fundraising is a little bit like a chicken and an egg scenario, which I was just talking to our producer for tonight about. Now, I'll share with you guys sort of how I became to be a Paralympic champion. As I mentioned, when I started out, I hadn't run in about 7 years. I was depressed at the time. I was drinking a lot. In fact, I was also smoking a lot of weed at university, as university students do. And I had an accident where I drunk drove on a farm, and I never thought I would drink drive. And I woke up the next day, and I basically decided that I had to turn my life around because I'd had a bunch of sort of horrible events happen in the last 6 years. And I realized that it was how I'd reacted to those events that was leading to the negative outcomes in my life at that point in time. And so I looked at doing a whole lot of different things. I considered climbing Mount Cook because another double amputee New Zealander had climbed Mount Cook. And then some friends asked me if I'd like to lose my hands as well, which wasn't very appealing. They suggested that, or I suggested that I should do stand-up comedy. They said the irony of a guy with no legs doing stand-up was horrendous. And I didn't actually think about going to the Paralympics. It was a friend of mine. She said, why don't you go to the Paralympics? And I said, well, to go to the Paralympics, you have to have a disability, because I didn't think about myself really is being disabled. And she kindly pointed out that I'm an idiot and I have 2 artificial legs. And I shook her hand. I walked into the Paralympic offices the next day, and I said to them, in 4 years' time, I will go to the Paralympics and I will win the 100, 200, and 400, and I'll beat Oscar Pistorius, because this is right before he committed murder. And they said, well, maybe you should aim for Tokyo in 2020, which that would have worked out great, wouldn't it? I would be stuck here in New Zealand, obviously due to COVID. So thankfully, I didn't aim for Tokyo in 2020. I aimed for 2016. And I had no idea how I was going to do this. I had no money whatsoever. And I just started cold calling people. And this goes back to fundraising. It is really hard to raise money. And my first thought was, I'll write down a list of the MBR Rich List people, and I will cold email them and cold call them. And it would often go like this: hey, I'm Liam. I'm going to the Paralympics in 4 years' time. Would you mind donating me $5,000 for these $25,000 blades? And of course, they would often say, well, how fast can you run now? And I'd say, I haven't run in 6 years. And I'd get a lot of rejection. So that was pretty tough. And then I met this reporter from TV3. And this was a real testament to me in life as a lesson, that it only takes one person to believe that you can actually do something. And his name was Phil Vine. He came down to my university. He brought down a cameraman. He came into my dorm room. He didn't ask me any questions until he got there. And he goes, Liam, you want to go to the Paralympics in 4 years' time? How fast can you run now, mate? I go, I haven't run in 6 years. He looks at the cameraman. He's shit. But at that point, he can't say no to a kid with no legs, sitting in front of them with the camera on. Put that to the New Zealand public. And within 48 hours, we had $50,000 in my bank account. And at the time, I was watching that documentary with a bunch of my friends from university in our hall. And they all turned around to me at the end of it and they said, unfortunately for you, you're actually going to have to do this. And without that funding and the sort of chicken and the egg scenario, without any results whatsoever, I had a bunch of people back me. And I had to do it over the next 4 years. I just dedicated my life to it. I turned my entire life around and eventually got to the Paralympics in 2016 after a lot of people told me I wouldn't make it, that I should aim for Tokyo. I had a girlfriend tell me that I'd wind up being a failure and she'd find me behind a bar back in Nelson, and many different difficult things. And I got to the Paralympics on my first race. I won my first medal, which would have been my late mother's birthday. So that was fantastic. And then I went on to win the 200 and 400 as well. Unfortunately, not competing against Oscar Pistorius, which is something that I always wanted to do. So that's a little bit about me. It was a process more than anything for me to turn my life around, more than a love for running. It was a process for me to overcome the death of my mother and overcome depression, which was fantastic, and I achieved that. And since then, I've gone on to do stand-up comedy horrendously at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and spent the last 2.5 years working in a world-leading artificial intelligence company until more recently. So that's a little bit more about me. I'm going to bring Liam in once again as we head in towards the sort of final stretch of tonight's auction. Again, tonight we're trying to raise $50,000 for the Gut Cancer Foundation. We're nearly about there. I think we're sitting at around $35,000.
Something like last checking, yeah, we're around that time.
Around $35,000. So if you are feeling generous tonight, we do understand that is a constraining time financially for just about everybody, but these dollars do make a difference. So if you haven't registered, send a text to text Gastrofest 20 space with your full name to 2834. Get bidding. Feel free to try and compete against me. I am about to log back in and make sure that I don't lose the Reese Hotel in Queenstown. But Liam, maybe talk to us a little bit more about gut cancers and everything that you guys are sort of working on over the next year.
Sure. So as we said before, Liam, there's over 5,100 people every year are diagnosed with a gut cancer. And really one of the stark things about gut cancers are the survival rates. And that's particularly noticeable with cancers of the upper gut. the most noticeable, the most start figure is that around pancreatic cancer. So pancreatic cancer is really difficult to diagnose, it's really difficult to detect. And unfortunately, that does mean that only 8% of those people diagnosed will survive beyond 5 years. It's a horrific figure. So what we are doing at the Gut Cancer Foundation at the moment to address pancreatic cancer particularly is twofold. This November is the World Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, and we will be launching an awareness campaign in New Zealand to raise awareness around the need for more funding into research into new treatments, quality of life and diagnosis tools, but also to make sure that New Zealanders are aware of the symptoms and the risk factors involved in pancreatic cancer. The money that is being raised from Gastrofest hosts and diners tonight will go towards helping funding that kind of education and awareness program. Now, at the same time, we have at the moment money set aside for the master plan clinical trial. And this is a trial that's introducing a really specific type of radiation to help treat a certain cohort of pancreatic cancer patients to try and improve the possibility of them being able to go and have surgery, which is the only curative option for pancreatic cancer. So when we talk about what the Gut Cancer Foundation are doing and where this money is going to go to, those are really good examples of our education and awareness programs and the money that funds New Zealand researchers to help New Zealanders get on clinical trials and access new treatments sooner, working in tandem together. And the money that's raised from the auction tonight, from the dinners that you guys are hosting, is all going to help support us to do that work.
I mean, that really is a big crux of it, isn't it? The education part, the early detection, as opposed to having the ambulance at the bottom of a cliff, which for my mum and for my uncle, they had no idea that they had any symptoms, or if they did have symptoms, like my mother had some symptoms and they were sort of misdiagnosed, she didn't really know what to look out for.
Sure.
And it is really coming back to educating Kiwis around what to look out for very early on in order to save lives.
Absolutely. And then making sure that we've got the best possible treatments available for them if the cancer is unfortunately diagnosed as well. And that's where the trials and the research really come to prominence and are so important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, going back to the auction tonight, we do have some items that need a little bit of help. There are some amazing items that have been donated that are needing some more donations. Has anyone bid against me for the Les Mills? Because I don't want to lose that. And I'm going to throw my phone. No, we won't do that. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'm going to have to sneak in at the very end. We have about 7 minutes left of auction time. There are some items there that do need a little bit of work. The Akaroa Waterfront Motels and Akaroa Cooking School, which is a one-night stay for 2 people in a waterfront one-bedroom apartment at the Akaroa Waterfront Motel. Any cooking class worth around $240, which is absolutely phenomenal. I would definitely get bidding on that. I did see another one that I was thinking about bidding on, which was kindly donated by Continental Cars, which was the Porsche package, including hot lap experience around Hampton Downs, motorsport with lunch, with a professional driver. That sounds absolutely phenomenal to me. I would just like to note, a big thank you to anyone who has bid already. If you haven't registered and haven't made a bid, you have about 5 minutes to do so before closing. And as another reminder, if you don't get the item that you want tonight, please don't be afraid to make a donation. You can just make a flat donation of any amount through the Gala Bid website, and those dollars will add up and they will count. I don't know if you guys can see there, but the Mersenne Wide Pro electric scooter looks like an epic Christmas gift for some young ones or for some sort of savvy commuters. You look like a type of guy who might be riding the electric scooter into work.
I'm the type of guy that will fall off an electric scooter
to
work, I'm afraid, Liam.
Yeah. You do have that look about you, which is absolutely fantastic. What else do we have here? We have... what do we have? Oh, this one looks absolutely phenomenal. We have a 4-course gourmet dinner for 10 people. I do believe there was a little bit of an auction war going there with Des Harris to have 10 people cooked for in your home. Lovely 4-course gourmet dinner. Please do get bidding. These are some amazing items, whether they're things to put in your home or the opportunity to travel at this unprecedented time globally and see a bit more of New Zealand, we have got some great travel packages here that I encourage you to bid on. They are a bargain. As you can see there, we're at about $40,000. It would be absolutely fantastic in the last 5 minutes if we can push up to that $50,000 target to really help push those clinical trials in New Zealand. So what else can you talk to us about in regards to the Gut Cancer Foundation?
To put that money in context, so we've got commitments to 3 clinical trials at the moment. One, the master plan one for pancreatic cancer. We've got commitments to a trial for gallbladder cancer and one for stomach cancer. Now, collectively, our commitments to those come to $50,000. Clinical trials are really, really expensive. It can cost anything between $1,000 and $10,000 to put an individual through a trial. And as Mike alluded to earlier, the funding is really scarce in New Zealand. So we as a charity, we can perform that role to top up funding for New Zealand researchers. And as I say, you know, it's about making sure that that the money is available for Kiwis who are undergoing treatment to access the best ones possible. So $50,000 will cover those 3 commitments. $50,000 would allow us to do 2 full-on education and awareness campaigns around different forms of gut cancer. $50,000 has been given in the past to cover part-time clinical fellowships, where we've got some incredible minds, New Zealand minds, in the labs looking at new treatment options. You know, that real genesis of the work that goes on to become clinical trials.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that, you know, it's hugely in need of funding. Gut cancers are underfunded massively in this country, globally. They're not talked about, and therefore they're not at the forefront of people's minds. So the role that you guys are playing tonight, and I can see these bids coming through now, it's just incredible to see this. We really are incredibly grateful. It's amazing to see this happening, and it makes such a difference to us. It really does. I can't tell you how grateful we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I am getting anxious because I'm getting notifications that I'm getting outbid, and I'd love to look at my phone and make that bid right now. It should also be noted that tonight's donations and auction bids are, if you are the winner, or just the donations? Just the donations are tax deductible. Which obviously you can get back around 33%, I think, yeah, so, on those donations.
On the donations,
yeah.
Any auction items, unfortunately, aren't, because
you're getting a good for them. Yeah, but the donations are tax deductible, which is fantastic. We are nearly at the end of tonight's program. We hope that you guys can stop listening to us and get stuck back into the wine bottles or whatever you're drinking at home. But as we enter the last sort of 2 minutes again, I do encourage you guys to make a donation to the Gut Cancer Foundation. It just is a massive problem in this country, and this funding does go a long way. I am going to sneakily open this up and quickly make sure I outbid whoever has the bid on the Reese Hotel, which is a little bit unprofessional of me, but I really do want it. Judith, I'm sorry, but I'm about to outbid you for $1,400. So if you'd like to sneak on in the last 1 minute, good luck to you. I will be back on the phone in about 30 seconds if you do so. So we've just ticked over the $40,000 mark. That is absolutely remarkable. That will go a long way. We have about 30 seconds left on...
I think the way that the auction is set up, that it will tick over if there are any bids in the last minute.
That is correct.
If you do want to keep bidding and put that last one into outbid your friendly rival, then there will be time to do so.
We also do appreciate that this year's Gastrofest is on a totally uncertain environment. We're here in the Gut Cancer Foundation HQ, sort of awkwardly talking into this camera, and we'd just really like to say a big thanks to all the hosts that had all the dinner guests at their house tonight. Hopefully it was a really cool experience for you guys. A big thanks to Jeff Scott, who provided an amazing 5-course meal. We have been sent some photos from tonight's chefs. If you do want to send those through or put them in the comments on the Facebook live feed, that would be absolutely amazing too. And just once again, thank you guys all so much for participating this year. It really does go a long way.
It's hugely important, Liam. It really is massively important. As I say, these cancers of the digestive system of the gut really are underfunded. There's a lack of money in the research, and it's vital that we get these clinical trials underway, that we bring them to New Zealand, The other thing that these trials are doing, of course, is upskilling, as Mike alluded to. They're upskilling our New Zealand researchers and New Zealand clinicians. So we're keeping our talent in this country by being able to allow them to practice and get practice on new techniques. Master plan's a really good example of that. This radiation technique is a really new one, and it allows the New Zealand radiation experts that are involved in master plan to learn this new technique, practice on it, which they wouldn't otherwise have if the clinical trial wasn't brought to New Zealand. A lot of these trials are international.
Yeah,
they're really broad, and it's New Zealand plays a really important role in a much wider perspective. It's both giving local impetus to the researchers, it's providing new treatments for New Zealanders, but it's also feeding into that global
ecosystem.
Exactly, you know, that real worldwide approach to trying to tackle these cancers that, as I say, that are all too prevalent and have some really, really horrific survival rates, as many of us know all too well in a number of circumstances. So, look, I mean, this is just phenomenal. These bids are still coming in. It's quite mind-blowing.
An extra 1,000 in the last 2 minutes or so.
Thank you. I mean,
yeah, thank you guys so much.
Tell you,
lack of funding, lack of attention. You guys tonight have made a real contribution to that. Of course, we'd love your feedback on how tonight went, what you thought we could do better. That would be absolutely awesome. Hopefully the next Gastrofest will be in person. That would be absolutely phenomenal. But otherwise, once again, thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate it. The auction is still open and still going. So keep bidding as long as you wish.
Keep bidding as long as you wish. I just hope I haven't been outbid by Judith again. I think I'm going to win. Yeah. So once again, guys, thank you guys very much. And we hope you have a wonderful night. Are we still live?
I think we might be.
Oh, we're still live. Okay. So we're going to stay live while everyone keeps...
Well, I think what we might keep them company whilst they're...
Why not? So I think when it goes back, it's not just attention. You know, one of the things that I found to be a problem when my mum was diagnosed with bowel cancer, and certainly anyone who has experienced gut cancer will probably relate to this, is if you have a colostomy bag or any of the sort of side effects that comes with having a gut cancer is the awkwardness that comes with being in public, especially having a colostomy bag. That's something that was really awkward. And, you know, I really hope that as we move forward, we do come up with very specific solutions for what seems to be a very big puzzle. In a way, it seems to be a very big puzzle.
I mean, these things aren't just about treatments or diagnosis; they're about quality of life as well.
Absolutely.
You know, and how do we improve that? And that's what clinical trials do as well. You know, they're not just looking at treatments; they're not just looking at diagnosis. They're looking, can we improve somebody's life as they're undergoing their treatments? Is there anything we can do? And the example you gave is a really pertinent one. That's the beauty of clinical trials; they're really flexible in that way, and you can investigate and try and improve many different areas.
I just remember as a 12-year-old, my heart was broken, and I just could not understand how in the 2000s we have, you know, so many people in this country dying of gut cancers, and we knew so little about it. Because I remember talking about it with my parents, and they just didn't have that much information. Now, we'll do one last donation drive. I do have a note here that says the avocados have been bid up past $300, which is absolutely nuts. I'm guessing some of you definitely have millennial children who are smashing avocado on toast every single day, which is an expensive habit. But once again, if you could please make a donation, that would be absolutely fantastic. Those donations are tax deductible. You can donate any amount that you want, and that will directly go to helping fund clinical trials for the Gut Cancer Foundation. So you can do that through Gala Bid. Jump on, donate $50. That would go a long way in these last few minutes. $42,000, so close to reaching that target. of $50,000. You know, a great strategy I hope that some of the hosts used was bringing a lot of wine bottles. You know, that's something that I've succumbed to in the past. I remember going to a charity dinner about 1.5 years ago after taking my girlfriend to Ed Sheeran, and I drunkenly bought a Ed Sheeran replica guitar for $5,000 over the amazing trip to Sydney, and that did not go down well. So if you have had a little bit of wine, do not be afraid to throw in a bid or a donation. It will go a long way. Okay, the auctions have closed. Congratulations to everyone who won something tonight. I'm hoping Judith didn't outbid me. It looks like Judith might have outbid me. That's not going to go down well for me. But thank you very much for everyone who participated tonight. That $42,000 will go a long way. If you do want to make a donation after tonight, please do just get in touch with Liam or Sue from the Gut Cancer Foundation, and they would be happy at any point in time to help make that happen. And otherwise, that'll be it for me. I'm sure that many of you have been touched in the same way that I have from gut cancers. One of the things that I just always encourage parents to do is go and get checked. Even if your doctor suggests that you might not have any of the symptoms. I had precancerous polyps as a 23-year-old, and the doctors said that there was no way they were going to find anything when they did a colonoscopy, and they were wrong. So you just never know, and it's not a risk that I think anyone should take. So get out there, check your symptoms, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's hugely appreciated. Thank you.